on one hand, I wouldn't want to do anything that would potentially endanger the safety of my child.
Right.
I realize I'm participating in illegal activity with my kid, yada, yada. But, Daddy didn't want to lose his mind. So, I had to do something to keep me going.
Okay, so this is us. First off, before we do the intro, I'd like to do a quick thank you to my good friend Fleeves. Everyone's kind of probably noticed, if you've been listening, that we've slowly been getting better at our audio. One of the big reasons for that is that my buddy Fleeves, he came and he kind of helped us tweak our soundboard and figure things out. He's also the one who gets credit for creating our intro song. So big thanks to Fleeves.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Fleeves.
Yeah, and then, so welcome everyone. This is Waiting to Dry. I'm Josh Loucheur.
I'm Sergio Lopez.
I'm Leon Loucheur.
And this is us.
Hello.
This is us.
What's up, Leon?
No, not too much, man. Just enjoying another beautiful day.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
So Leon's a good friend of mine. I keep trying to convince Sergio to invite his friends, but he holds them close to his heart.
Do it.
They all don't speak just like me.
So we invited Leon. If anyone's not familiar with his art, go check it out. But yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you guys. I've been listening to the podcast every week, so it's
Awesome.
kind of cool to be sitting here in the seat. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I know you always give me like little feedbacks, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm you guys' biggest fan.
And not only that, but you're kind of a big reason why I even started listening to podcasts.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I started like most people, probably listening to Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of doing that for a while, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, I love podcasts." And then you said like a bunch of podcasts I've never heard of, and then you sent me a bunch, and I started checking them all out, and then I got hooked and went down that rabbit hole for a couple of years.
And they're addicting.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean,
I decided he could start one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's cool. I already feel like I did something today.
Yeah, that led to this probably.
So, in a way, yeah,
definitely. And now I got to go to rehab for podcasts.
Yeah. They can drown your brain for sure. You got to take it easy, man. Like 8 hours of podcasts a day is just a little bit much, but
yeah, definitely. But I've definitely done that.
Yeah,
it's nice to pass the time, though.
Yeah. So
we're all alone in our art studios all the time.
Exactly.
So it's nice to have some chitter chatter in the background.
Yeah, keep you from that repeating thought cycle about something that happened to you in the third grade that you're still mad about or something like that.
Yeah.
So another big thing is that there will be one third less beer cracks open this podcast.
Sorry.
Leon's living the healthy life right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
temporary.
While we're slurring our words, he will sound eloquent and like a genius.
I'm going to be the host.
So I want to just kind of jump right into it as far as the origin story to Leon. We've kind of been going through all of my friends, and Jason Avery, which I consider him a friend, but definitely got to know him that day more. But so how long do you think you've been painting for? Is that a forever thing?
No, actually, I didn't start painting until I was 27. So,
wow.
Yeah, I kind of had a whole nother life before I started getting into this one. But,
right.
I always did creative stuff, growing up. So when I was a little kid, I used to draw a lot. And, I used to draw a lot of pictures of like football sequences and war, like dudes with machine guns blasting each other. Tanks and shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I was all about that. And, honestly, when I see some of the drawings I did when I was a little kid, it's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I got turned off from drawing at some point, and I just kind of stopped doing it. And legend has it, when I was in the second grade, I had this teacher who decided that I was holding my pencil wrong, and she wanted to change the grip on my pencil. I used to hold it with like 3 fingers, like a real kind of like loose grip, you know, and she wanted me to have the super official Kung Fu grip on my pencil. So
nice.
She gave me one of those little like triangle, you know, gizmos they put on the pencil.
Oh, yeah. The little rubber things.
Yeah, little rubber deal. Yeah. So my parents tell me that when I was made to hold my pencil with one of those, I kind of fell off on drawing. So
that sucks.
yeah, exactly.
So thanks a lot for that, teacher.
Yeah, thanks, Miss Albee, if you're out there.
Great job.
But
Think you're helping?
Exactly. You know, damn. So later on in life, like maybe when I was in high school, I got turned on to graffiti by a friend of mine who was like probably the only writer in my high school. This was probably like 1991. And
nice.
And
where did you go to high school?
I grew up in a city called Fullerton, which is
okay.
Yeah, you know where that's at?
Near LA.
Yeah, it's outside LA. Exactly.
Can we take a quick opinion of LA from you?
Shout out to the city of Angels. Don't let the haters get you down.
The very
shots
first
fired.
pro
LA.
LA.
Oh yeah. Don't get me started, boys. I was seething when I was listening to your other podcast. And just for the record, I like Albuquerque too. So shout out to Albuquerque. LA's cool. I mean, I understand LA is sort of inaccessible to people who are not from there because it's so big. And it's sort of segregated into neighborhoods. And if you don't really have people there, if you don't know your way around, you know, it's like, you know, it's kind of hard to unlock the charms. But if you grow up there, it's easy. And, you know, you can't, you know, who doesn't love beautiful beaches and entertainment and food? And, you know, it's got a lot. So I'm down with LA. I loved growing up there. It was cool. Even though when I was there, I thought I was destined for something else in life, you know. But in retrospect, I think it was a dope place to grow up.
That's
so
cool.
Nice.
yeah. So when I was in high school, this cat in my school who wrote Clue, CLUE, and he was like the only graffiti writer in the school, which says a lot about the school I went to because it was the early 90s and graffiti was pretty popping then. But you know, it was just a school that didn't have a lot of that element to it, and and I think that was the appeal. You know, this dude was like kind of counterculture for our school. You know, he had something new and exciting. And, you know, I was looking for an anecdote to the, you know, suburban boredom. So, so I started rolling with this dude, and his dad owned like a lowrider modification shop in Bellflower. And he used to work the front desk. And so he would just be like working the front desk, doing little graffiti doodles on paper and stuff. And the clients would come in and he'd just start meeting people that way. And and of course it was like lowriders. So it was like during the era of tag banging. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but
that was big in LA. I know that.
It was crazy. Yeah, for sure. So like in the early 90s, there was a crossover between basically gangs and tagging before it sort of took the turn towards like the hipster phenomenon that it is now.
Right. There's still traces of that, I feel like, especially in certain areas.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt. So anyway, so he met all these sort of hardcore dudes that we started rolling with. And so, you know, I probably spent like my junior year of high school just, you know, being kind of crazy, bombing on the freeways, catching tags. Like the quality of the artwork was poor, but it was really more about being young and rebellious. And I was excited to get to, you know, I mean, you know, it was like the Eazy-E era. You know, I was stoked to be kicking it with like gangsters, you know, before I was smart enough to know better. Yeah. And so, you know, I survived that experience without anything bad happening to me, but it was cool. It was an interesting experience. So I kind of took it easy my senior year. You know, I figured, you know, I'm growing up, I'm going to go to college theoretically. And, you know, so I sort of thought I was leaving graffiti behind. But then when I went to college at Humboldt State, I met some cats that painted this dude who actually writes in the city now. He writes Keb, K-E-B. And I linked up with him when I got there. And he was actually from there, a little town up in Northern California called Arcata, which is just a little hippie paradise.
Yeah, right near Eureka, right?
Exactly, right across the bay from Eureka. Yeah. And there's a university there. It's just a real kind of super liberal intellectual town. When I got there in the early 90s, it was sort of still trapped in the 60s. And I guess it is somewhat still, but it's kind of caught up a little bit since then. But
they got iPhones now.
Yeah, exactly. So when I got there, I started going to school, and I met up with Keb and some other cats that grew up there. this guy that wrote K-Saw, who now writes Chic, and some other cats. Anyways, they took me out to their little spot. They had a little painting spot behind the printing press there in town. And, they were painting burners, which was totally foreign to me. I had just thought of graffiti as a vehicle for destruction and to try and, get whatever limited fame I got in the 1 year I was, catching tags in LA,
right.
which is not much.
Was this spot like a legal spot, or was this kind of?
It was a legal spot.
Okay.
Exactly. And so, they kind of put me on. They taught me how to do letters. They sort of, instructed me on the art of color coordination and contrast, lights and darks, and how to, do your fill and an outline and a 3D and et cetera, just kind of like piecing 101.
Graffiti is kind of cool like that, because they what they have is they have like this almost like a structured way of doing things, and they have this mentorship included in that.
Especially then.
And putting in the work really equates to success in that kind of world,
For sure. I agree 100%. I mean, I think one, the mentorship thing that you commented on was really in full effect at that time. And, I think that was a special thing that sort of existed in a pre-internet world where, the sacred wisdom really got handed down from one practitioner to another.
Right. Yeah. You can't Google things or YouTube things.
Yeah, exactly. And additionally, if you're, like you said, if you're not putting in the work in the right places, then you're not going to get the fame.
Right.
You can't have some spot in a wheat field in Kansas and, you build a brick wall in your backyard and paint it and post it to the internet. You had to be there doing it in the spot. And,
yeah, definitely.
So it was cool. And then there was the whole culture around getting your pictures and trading the pictures, and, everything was so much harder to come by. And I mean, the same goes for music too. We were really into underground hip hop at that time.
Nice.
Freestyle Fellowship and that whole thing. So getting some bootleg tapes, getting some, trading flicks with the homies. That was like,
that was big really in cool. LA around that time.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So they were like the underground scene down there. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the Living Legends up here in the Bay Area.
Exactly.
Yeah. But even then, the Living Legends have some LA cats in there.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, holding it down for West Coast underground hip hop, and
that's kind of when LA or the West Coast was kind of competing with the East Coast, and the East Coast was kind of losing in a way.
Yeah, for a hot second, but they got it back. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I really related to that music a lot too. I felt like it spoke to me in the sense that the MCs were talking about the struggle, artistic struggle. They were talking about, more grimy kind of backpack mentality. I really didn't relate to the, the glitz and glamour, like popping corks and this and that,
more brick and mortar.
Yeah, exactly. It was more blue collar ethic to it.
I don't know if any of them did graffiti or anything like that, but that music fit that sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know Del the Funky Homo Sapiens really respected in the graffiti world.
Yeah, and there's some of them. I know Eli from Living Legends is an artist.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anyways, I know some of them are involved in that, and plus I believe they had a house at some point, at least the Legends did, or some of the Legends in the East Bay, and some writers were living there as well. So I think there's some crossover there. But,
for sure.
That's cool.
So anyway, I went to college to, get a degree, and I ended up falling in love with graffiti again.
What'd you go to college for?
I got a degree in social science. Actually, I went there for psychology, and actually I went there for science, forestry, and then I just tapped out after my first science class. Like, well, you got to go to a lab for how long? No. So I always liked reading and writing. So I think that the social sciences were more up my alley. So it was cool. I loved it. I really actually never wanted college to end. It was everything I loved. I got to go sit in lectures from brilliant people, and they would tell me all the right books to read, and I just felt really engaged by it. Plus, I mean, there's hardly any schedule. You can skip class if you don't feel like going. You go out and drink it with your friends all the time. I had a job bartending at like the spot in the city. The town. It's a town of like 12,000 people, so you can imagine there's not a lot of spots. But
right,
I worked. Shout out to Tomo Restaurant, Japanese restaurant in Arcata, California. I was a bartender there, and so I was balling. I was making a lot of money. I had my own apartment, and it was a good life. But
nice.
Unfortunately, every good thing comes to an end. So, So then, so after years of piecing and going to college, I finally graduated. It took me 7 years.
Did you ever get into any any issues with the law during that time?
Yeah, and as far
as graffiti is concerned?
No, I never did. I mean, I think, well, here's the thing. I mean, I really went hard for a year in LA when I was a kid. And I survived. I made it through that year. Thereafter, I mean, I was more of a calculated risk kind of person. I mean,
right.
In the graffiti world, being cautious does not make you well known. And I think that's reflected in how little well known I got. But
I don't know. I feel like you're known.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I definitely, I partook in some of the dangers, but I never was that dude that just was going hard, in the streets every night.
But even the guys that do that, I feel like they have like this way about how they do things. I mean, it's chaotic. I mean, some guys are just pure reckless, but a lot of the guys that seem to do just pure bombing for years and years and years, they definitely have some method to their madness of being able to, evade as much law as possible.
And I mean, I'm homies with some of them, to tell you the truth. And, I mean, they're professionals, they know what they're doing. And, you take a look at a dude like Pemex, it's just like the amount of wreck that dude catches is just mind boggling. It almost seems like superhuman, the stuff he does. And, he's just a real smart dude, and he knows how to get over,
Yeah. It seems like he can shoot webs from his wrist.
It does. It does. Yeah. he's a cool dude. Definitely shout out to him. So anyway, back to the story, that really wasn't my style. I was more the dude who was just making colorful paintings, in the alley or whatever.
Right.
And it was cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the camaraderie of being with my friends. I enjoyed, drinking beers and just, getting creative and telling jokes on the wall. And I met a lot of amazing people through that community. And really, I mean, it nurtured me as an artist until I got to the point where I sort of decided to segue into doing some more, brush painting. But so to get back, I was doing the graffiti. I graduated college. I moved to San Francisco, not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life because, I didn't want to put my degree to use because I wasn't really feeling getting a job. Plus I was bartending, so I was making lots of money.
Right.
So I came to the city and I got a job bartending. Well, a few months in, I got a job bartending.
So what drew you to San Francisco?
A girl, to be honest.
Classic story.
Exactly. And when I got here, we had kind of been dating right before she moved out of away from Humboldt, and she was living in San Francisco on 16th and Mission. She had a spot there, and I had come to visit her every once in a while, and it was all good. So I was thinking, all right, cool. I'm gonna 6 months later, or however long, I'm gonna move down, and it's gonna be all good. And then when I got here, she kind of threw a little surprise on me, like, hey, I got this dude I'm really into, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out, etc. And, she's a real cool person to this day. And she definitely a good friend, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because, a bunch of stuff popped off from her rejecting me, the top of which is I met my wife, which was a huge life-changing event. And additionally, through meeting my wife, sort of the event that led up to the next stage of my artistic development happened, which was, I had gotten to the city. I didn't have any money. I came here with hardly any money. And I ended up renting a room in like a real scummy little, almost a halfway house, Like the landlord was a dude who just basically took pity on people who had really big sob stories. And the tenants in the house sort of reflected that, you got a dude that just got out of prison, who was recovering heroin addict. And, I had this one crazy roommate who was an ex-bank robber, and he had just gotten out of prison. And he was a recovering heroin addict, but he sort of was like falling off the wagon right about the time that he moved in.
So how'd you get into this situation as far as living there?
Well, I mean, basically I moved to San Francisco in 1998 with $400 to my name, and that was the first .com boom. So it was like first, last deposit, it was like, you need about $2,000 to move in, and I have $400. So,
right.
I was young enough that I thought, well, I'll figure out a way to make it work. But
right.
When I got there, I found out that, that probably wasn't the smartest way to go about it. So, so I borrowed some money from a friend. I think I borrowed maybe $400 or $500. So I had like 800 total. And so I found this place. So dude was renting a room, I think, for maybe $400, and he just let me do first, last, and no deposit. And so, yeah, so it was kind of like a little circus house. We had the recovering heroin addict who used to rob banks, and he just got out of prison. There was an elderly woman whose husband, after she had raised the kids, basically married his mistress and shipped her off from the Philippines out here. And she was cleaning airplanes at the airport at night, and she was super depressed. She had a refrigerator in her room, which was like her most prized possession. And there was another girl who had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and she didn't want to talk to anybody. She was just sort of like hiding from all the roommates.
Some shell shock.
It was, yeah, it was kind of weird. And then the last dude was this hairdresser, and he had a fucking wolf, man. I mean, I'm telling you, this was a huge wolf.
Wow.
And he would keep it inside the house all the time. The wolf never went outside.
Just like feeding him a whole deer. And
yeah, it was the dog would take like horse-sized shits on the rug, and he would just leave it there for like a day or two. So when you walked in the house, the stench was overwhelming. And so I would just get home and I would just like beeline it to my room, close the door, lock it. The only really person there that I got along with was the ex-con. And he was cool until like right around the time I started leaving. He started falling off the wagon. So I don't imagine anything good came from that. But so anyway, so one night I came home from work, and I went to my room. My wife was coming over later that evening, and I was kind of
time your girlfriend.
At the time, my girlfriend, exactly. And I ate a bunch of mushrooms because I was just trying to like kill time. And
mushrooms, as in like portobellos, or
yeah, exactly. No, psilocybin. Yeah, I ate a bunch. I ate a bunch of shrooms, and I was just sort of tripping in my room by myself, and really kind of having a bit of an uneventful trip. And my wife showed up, my girlfriend, and she had a friend who was a first grade teacher. And so she had these kids, like little kids books, picture books with her. And I was tripping. I started like flipping through these picture books, and I had this epiphany while I was tripping, like, I have to do this, I have to make one of these. Because the other thing was I really liked writing. I was really into writing. For a long time, I wanted to be a novelist or a poet. I really thought that was basically the career that I was going to end up with. But so when I saw the picture book, I thought, man, I like write poetry all the time. Like I could write a kid's story easy, And so I went on with my trip. I went to sleep that night. I woke up in the next morning, and I just immediately sat down and basically, I mean, the best way I could say it is I just channeled this story, which I came out of the shroom hangover or whatever. I mean, it just like appeared, and it was a really good story. I started showing it to people, friends and stuff, and people were blown away. They were like, wow, you wrote this? This is incredible. And so I started shopping it around. I made some little rudimentary illustrations, with my rudimentary art skills, just some little simple line drawings. And I started shopping my manuscript around, and lo and behold, like a year or two later, it got published. Publisher called me. I'd moved to Colorado, Boulder, in the meanwhile, with my wife. She went to graduate school out there. And so, yeah, the phone rang one day, and it was a publishing company saying, hey, we want to publish your book. We think it's, it's good. We'd like to have the illustrations for it in a year's time.
Huh.
And I was like, holy fuck, what have I got myself into here? I mean, I was thrilled that the book got published, but I had no skills to illustrate a book,
This was like your first legit gig?
Yeah, by far, I mean, I literally had never, sometimes I would do little characters on the like graffiti wall. I go to the comic store and like thumb through the comics until I found a character I could like bite using a little production. That was really the extent of my drawing. And, so yeah, I mean, I basically just got thrown in the deep end on this book, and I illustrated
the best way to learn.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, I had to take it super serious. And of course, I had all this fantasy about, oh, I made it now. I got a book published. I'm like a, professional author, blah, blah, blah. This is my career, and then I got smacked with the reality of, it's hard. It's really hard to make a living as a children's book author, much more difficult than it is to make a living as a painter. So the book got published. I did the illustrations. It came out cool. My books showed up in a bunch of boxes, and I started slanging them. I started doing readings in elementary schools and street fairs and this and that, really trying to sell my book. And it did all right. I mean, the publisher really didn't put anything behind it, and I did all the promotion really myself. But I sold a couple thousand books and made a couple $1,000s for basically, 2.5 years of work. So that was the reality of that industry.
And that was probably when people were buying more books.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, that was 2001 that the book was published. And so, yeah, definitely. It's a hard road. I mean, talk about a labor of love, I mean, it's not like you can just make a painting and then just sell it. Fast forward, my wife gets her degree. So when we met, she wanted to go to graduate school. So we kind of made a deal, which was basically, all right, look, I'll bartend. I'll, support you while you go to graduate school. Because, not only is it grad school, there's 5 years of classes. There's a year of postdoc and a year of internship. And you make like, $12,000 as an intern for a year's work or something like that. So the deal was like, hey, look, I'm going to, grind. I'm going to help you through all the school. And, when you get out the other side, I'm going to do my art thing and you're going to do the same for me. And that's exactly how it worked, to tell you the truth.
Did she know she was committing to that for the...
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yeah. I mean, forget 7 years, try 37 years. Yeah, for real. No, but, I mean, additionally we had kids and, the responsibilities of life sort of grew. But, so to get back, I had moved to San Francisco. I was bartending. Bartending is a great profession. It's a lot of fun, but man, you drink so much. And I just knew it wasn't sustainable. I had been doing it for 15 years and, I knew I was hitting the end of the road and I needed to figure something out that I could do with my life and try and generate some income. And since the book thing wasn't really working, I thought, how could I sort of parlay this into something else? So I basically combined the children's book aspect with the graffiti aspect, and I started a mural company where I was painting murals in like kids' rooms and, bedrooms and stuff. I was doing that whole vibe. And so I got in a really cool referral circle where I was making some paintings in some like mansions up in Presidio Heights and Pacific Heights. And it was a pretty good business, actually. But then my wife had our first child, and I just was like, man, do I really want to just spend my free time painting pink bunnies so I can have like, a nanny take care of my kids, So I just segued into basically being a stay-at-home dad, and then trying to grind on the painting on the weekends or whenever, I had a free moment at night. And I just thought, I'm going to make some personally rewarding art. I don't want to do the kid stuff anymore. And, as much as I loved graffiti, it was more of an action sport to me than it was about sort of exploring the sort of extreme reaches of my artistic capabilities, although it is for some people. And I'm definitely not, dissing that in any way. But I just had some ideas about how I wanted to sort of like marry all the different elements that had influenced me through the years together. And so I started painting at canvases. And, here I am talking to you guys. Pretty fucking dope, right?
Yeah. So you basically learned it on your own how to paint canvases?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Are we going to have the art school conversation?
There's been so many self-taught artists on this podcast already.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I taught myself. I mean,
we're just going to assume you hate art school.
What are your thoughts on the Academy of Art?
All right. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I had never been to art school. And sort of when I was at the point when I had my mural business and I was sort of wanting to figure out how I could expand to do more personally rewarding art. And I thought maybe taking a class at Academy would be like a cool experience because I sort of romanticized art school. And, like I said, I really loved college. So I just assumed that there was something there for me to learn. So I went there and I took a class and I spent way too much money on one class, but I had a really cool teacher, Marcos Aidala, who was a really like pumped me up and like gave me a lot of confidence and really made me believe that I could do some high quality artwork that was on par with the, what I perceived to be a legitimate artist at that time. He just basically was like, you got it, just run with this. And so I'm forever grateful to him for that. But, it was interesting. The thing I noticed from that class was just that the quality of students was so low. With a few exceptions in the class, but
so you're trying to say that art school changed your life?
Well, it did in some ways, and in other ways, I realized what a money-making machine the academy is, and that most of the people there are just people who are lost and adrift, and they don't know what they want to do, and so they're going to art school. So I think the art school is probably what you make it. I mean, I think that there's probably people that get a tremendous amount out of art school, and other people who just waste their parents' money there. But and for me, I took perspective, and that was the perfect class to take because it's something very concrete. It's something that really I think every artist should know about because when you see, for me, when I see a painting with wonky perspective, it just kills it. It's just dead on arrival.
For sure.
So I was really glad I took that class, even though I don't really use any perspective in my current artwork. But I think it was still a good foundation to build.
I mean, for me, perspective, I don't know. Perspective is kind of one of those weird ones where it's almost like math. You got to kind of
it definitely is.
You kind of got to keep doing it over and over, or else you look at like a long division problem. And you're like, I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah,
5-year-old me would slap the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's cool that you went the technical route at least. And it's always one of those things that for perspective, I could definitely probably try to get lost in that whole thing because, I mean, it's just one of those things I think that I'm not good at, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're bad at it. I mean, you're painting figures in sort of an abstracted background, so
right.
But it never reads wonky to me in any way. I mean, and you can, I mean, there's perspective within the shape of the head and the way the eyes and the lips align and
natural perspective. And
exactly.
Yeah. And, I think I just turned it back to you complimenting me, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
What else do I do good?
Everything, Josh. Damn good cook too, man. Great on the grill.
So now you're in San Francisco. You're pursuing art.
Right.
You kind of got the go ahead from a art professor to say, you don't need this. You just hit the ball or I don't know, hit the ground running or whatever. And so I guess what we'll do is we'll kind of start talking about your art and how you got to where you are now. Because, I mean, as far as your art, I believe you paint in acrylic mainly.
Yeah,
correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And you have, as far as what you're painting, a lot of it seems to be animals. Animal related as well as like world related.
Yeah. And
almost like the animals are what's the word I'm looking for?
Anthropomorphic.
That's the one. Yeah. Yeah. You anthropomorphize the animals.
For sure.
And there seems to be this theme of life and death in your work.
Absolutely.
As well as like an aspect of you trying to tell this story through visually and a lot of segmented parts to your paintings.
Exactly.
So I guess I don't need to learn anything.
Yeah. No, seriously, man. Damn, thanks, Josh. I didn't know you cared that much. I mean, so to give you just a little history of the way the style developed, when I first moved out here, I was doing this collaborative thing with my buddy, Mike Gallegos in Colorado, who was a graffiti writer that I'd collaborated with on pieces and stuff like that. And then he also does, quote unquote fine art painting or whatever. And so we just,
I think he does fine art painting.
Why did I say that? He does painting on panels and canvases. So, when I moved out here, we just had this idea like, hey, let's just bounce back and forth a canvas in the mail and see what happens. And it came out real dope. And so then we were both hooked. So I think we probably made about, I don't know, maybe 35, 40 paintings together.
Yeah, I like those paintings.
Yeah, thank you. I do too. I mean, it's his style. If nobody has seen it, I assume you haven't.
How dare you?
I know. Go to my website, damn it. Chambermaid. His style is very, how how should I say it? It's kind of like urban Picasso-esque, it's very, maybe primal is the word. I mean, it's very free flowing. Let's put it that way. To watch him paint is really fascinating because it's very different than the way I paint, which is that I develop a plan and then I execute the plan in steps. And Mike just attacks the painting, and whatever comes out is what comes out. So you have these two juxtaposing styles, and they worked really well together. And so we did that for a number of years until we sort of got priced out of it because it costs a lot of money to be shipping paintings back and forth and to be flying out to see each other. Sure. And so we didn't really have a lot of success selling the work, although it was a lot of fun making it. And receiving when you're bouncing a painting back and forth and, I'll do my part and I'll send it out to Mike and he'll do his part and then he'll send it back to me and, I'll do a layer. And when you're unwrapping that painting, it's like better than getting a present on Christmas morning when you're a kid, it's like the best feeling when you rip away the package and you see what he did and you're just like, oh, yeah. And we would have this ethic where we would never premeditate anything, where it would just be like a conversation strictly in visual terms,
That's awesome.
So it was always a surprise. It was really
That's
very
awesome.
fun. Yeah. But, so that sort of fizzled on just because, I think both of us just were spending too much money on it.
Yeah.
And all's well that ends well. I think it was a good opportunity for me to sort of separate from that, paradigm and start to develop my own idea and voice, which is something that I think is important for every artist to do. So, so I started, when he and I were painting together, I was painting mostly animals, almost exclusively animals.
And what time was this roughly? Do you know?
Oh man. Yeah, I'm going to say 2009 to 2012, somewhere in there, something like that. So then I started painting animals. I continued painting animals on my own, but, and I made some, not to say I didn't make some cool paintings in that era, but I just felt that they lacked the narrative that I was looking for. I thought the premise with Mike's work and my work together was that we were presenting sort of a counterpoint that was evolving spontaneously, and it was engaging and interesting on those terms. But without Mike, it was just paintings of animals. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it really wasn't giving me what I was looking for. So, and also I think it was reading a little serious, and I wanted more room for a broader voice. I wanted some paintings to be serious, and I wanted some paintings to be whimsy, and I wanted some paintings to be social commentary, and I wanted some paintings to reflect my, inner spiritual life, and, and so I was really looking for a recipe that would give me a broader range of expression. And so I just started playing with different things and piecing things together in sort of fragmented sense. And, as you guys know, the way your style develops is not through having an idea and doing it, but it's by executing the previous idea and then making adjustments and then just basically building on what you did before. And so, and sometimes you get a little leap, but mostly it's incremental. And so just through repetition, it started to evolve. And then, I settled on this latest composition that I've been doing. And, I'm actually I'm coming back to all the way back to when Keb taught me to do graffiti. I just remember he was like, okay, here's what you do. You get your basic letters, you go in your black book, and you just repeat those letters again and again and again. Each time you do a little variation. Maybe you do a kick out here, maybe you do an arrow here.
Right.
And then incrementally it's going to evolve into something else.
Yeah, I was going to kind of mention that it's very much like graffiti, especially your stuff, just because there is like this repetition of a concept or of this like imagery, but slightly different. And
exactly.
And I wanted to ask you about that, mainly because, for the most part, I feel like whenever I look at a painting, I'll try to break down kind of what it means.
Right.
And I might get some stuff, but I always assume that there's just parts to it I don't necessarily know or can't really understand unless I go to the artist and just directly ask them. But I'm not really that. I usually just don't do that because I kind of don't want it done to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that. Sometimes it surprises me how few people will inquire as to what the painting means, you know?
Yeah. So this kind of leads to the paintings of yours we want to talk about, or at least, we kind of call it critiquing, but we don't really critique paintings. We just talk about them. And it just kind of helps us break down your work. So we have these two paintings. They're both of owls. One's holding umbrellas, and the other one's has like those Hulk smash boxing gloves on.
Yeah.
And then halfway down, there's a human skeleton with a heart. I know that's like a reoccurring imagery. Also, the arms a lot of times will have tattoos. And there's always like this, or not always, but as of lately, there's been this like cylindrical sphere above the above the person,
floating orb.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to just go thing for thing and break it down.
Sure.
So let's do that. How about that?
Yeah, love to.
One question I have before I get into it: how much of like the symbolism of it is literal, like for example, like you have owls in these paintings, like usually owls at least in Western civilization, they kind of represent knowledge and things like that.
Exactly.
So how much of that do you think you bring into your work? Like, do you take it, or do you have like your own language for things? Like, do your owls represent something else, or do you try to stick with like what you're trying to say to other people?
I do. You know, that's actually a good observation. And one thing that I've you're very welcome. One thing I've sort of learned about doing these paintings or evolved into is that the owl does represent knowledge. I use it to reflect paintings that are about my, I would say, internal landscape. So basically, I divide the paintings into two at this point. Some of my earlier work doesn't fall into this category, but now this is how it is. So there's wolves and there's owls. Mm-hmm. And the owls...
I was going to ask you about the wolves so I could make a good observation, but I'll just let you work through it.
Okay, sure. Help me out. It's like a psychology session. You guys have a chaise lounge like that or something?
I was going to ask you because I feel like the owl, or not the owls, but wolves in general, there's like two mindset about wolves, at least in my head, that they can represent. There's the obvious pack, right? So like the pack mentality kind of deal.
Right.
And then for me, there's this fact that they are just prime predator, like they're just apex predator. Yeah. So those two for me are like, if I see an owl, I instantly think if it's trying to read either way, either like a group mentality kind of thing, or if it's something to do with
predation or something like that. Yeah.
But,
yeah, I mean, I use the owl to express internal subject matter, and I use the wolf to express external subject matter. And another way you could sort of break that up is the owl is the things I can control, and the wolf is the things I can't control. The wolf, I like to tell the dark stories through the wolf. I mean, the owl is sort of a rarefied figure of beauty or something. I mean, it has an element of purity to it, and like Sergio said, of sort of knowledge attached to it. And not to suggest I'm like some kind of wise sage or anything like that, but I certainly aspire to grow more and more in that direction as life goes on. And so, the books that I read that inform me on that level, a lot of the content of those books turns up in the owl paintings, and or sometimes it's autobiographical in nature. But the wolf is my opportunity to tell the stories about the darker things in life.
I know you did an owl. Sorry, you just want to transition to wolf, and
no worries.
I know you did an owl that I really liked, and you shared on your Instagram where he's holding a potato in a book.
Oh yeah, right.
And that kind of goes back to, I'm assuming, that place you lived that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, the house is pictured in the painting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just enjoyed that little peek into your artwork. As far as every once in a while, artists will like share a good chunk of themselves via artwork. And, I think a lot of times they do that, but very few times you actually get the actual answers to what those things mean. You kind of get like cookie crumbs, and then through social media, you were able to like break that painting down and kind of give a huge chunk of what that painting means, or pretty much the majority of what that painting means, I'm assuming. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I pretty much broke the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the thing is that, visually that painting is one of the least successful I've done in the series, but people really responded to it in like a very powerful way because of the description that was attached to it. And it really sort of underscored the idea for me. Like I think it's a good idea for me to explain the work, because I don't mind talking about what it's about. In fact, I really wish people would inquire with me more about it. So I think I'm going to start writing more about what the paintings are about when I post them.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've found that people, it's a conclusion I came to about my own work as well. People get more attached to the stories behind the art than just the art on its own. Because most people don't paint, so they don't realize what.
True.
They don't get caught up in the technical aspect like other artists do. Yeah. So when you communicate about your art to other people, you have to explain it to them in terms that they understand better.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, and also on that, sometimes you go, because we try to speak visually. Sometimes we get like too deep into our visual vocabulary.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of like you got to remember that you got to be able to explain things to people that don't necessarily on the daily basis think of things in a visual vocabulary.
It's like if you were reading a book and you didn't understand the words.
It's like reading Shakespeare. I mean, I guess I'm comparing us to Shakespeare. So
I mean,
we're so advanced.
Graffiti is very much like that because, as if you get really into graffiti and you really are in tune with the little nuances of what makes something cool or technique, you see a huge difference between one writer and the next. Whereas the average person, they could look at some like mediocre graffiti next to like some super wild style banger, and they couldn't even tell the difference. They think it's the same thing. So I mean, and that's true. I think that.
Or even in the graffiti term, I remember the other day I was talking to Sergio and I was breaking down like this tag someone was doing on social media, and I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. He's like, what? And
right, it looks like scribble, right?
Yeah.
But once you explain it to me, you're like, oh, okay,
yeah, you saw it in there.
Yeah. And then I'm like, it's just exactly how you recreated a letter to, and then you had to reproduce that letter either in a sketchbook or just like, so many times to train your body to do this motion that in some ways is like counter-reactive to how you've been writing, is like the proper way of writing your whole life.
Yeah. It's almost like dancing in a way or something like that. Sometimes you really want to telegraph the imagery, right? Sometimes you want the painting to hit directly and for the person, the viewer to know immediately what it's about.
Right.
Sometimes you want to invite them in to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
And so,
I think there's I think art, at least when it's done, when it's a visual story or something they're trying to kind of explain to you, I think that's when it's done well, is when they give you like an easy answer to something, and then they have like other little things that you have to kind of figure out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I like that too. So to get back to just dissecting the pieces a little bit, I would just say that, the bottom portion of the paintings, which has a human skeleton and a heart, which is not a human heart, but really just an invented heart that I use. Those are sort of the two things that people generally live in denial about, which is to say the skeleton represents death and the heart represents the need to love and be loved, which I think is a very fundamental human quality. In fact, maybe even represents our fundamental nature. Is a need to belong and to be cared for and to be sheltered and I think everybody is born with that, and for some people it gets demented over time, maybe through their life experiences or whatever. But at some fundamental level, I think that there's a sort of a seed of compassion in everybody, and so that those are the two things that are represented there, because those are the things that are always with us. everything above is a changing kaleidoscope of imagery that reflects a different perspective or a take on the world.
So as us being the critics of the painting,
get down.
So so one thing I will say is that I noticed that so we're looking at one where the person's holding an umbrella,
yes,
and it's raining on them, and then they have this sun and like leaves above him, and I'm assuming that means that and the umbrellas they have like the planet on the umbrella,
yeah.
And so it's kind of seems like the person is self-deprecating or something. Like they're like it's a sunny place, you know, and they're deciding to live in there, wallowing in there. And that's kind of, am I way off on that?
Yes, yes. But that's cool. I mean, I like to hear that. I mean, sometimes you make an image and you think it's one thing and you think everyone's seeing it that way.
Right.
Yeah. And then, and I think, the reason the umbrellas have the world is because it's easy to like blame the outside, for your sorrows.
Okay.
And then, so on the right, we have this Hulk armed person and there's butterflies flying around. And I mean, this isn't as, crazy of what I perceive as the message being told is kind of like you have these humongous hands and you have this fragile outside experience around you, and you have these huge fist hands that aren't able to kind of I don't know how to explain this, to deal with the outside experience in the proper way. You were given the wrong tools for the experience of dealing with butterflies, and I think that's a blue flower, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it is. It's a dahlia.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, I'm honestly that one means the opposite thing also.
Nailing it.
I think I'm the one that's nailing it, or maybe need to think about these things. No, I mean,
no, I don't think anything wrong. That's just my perceived.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of one of those horrible quotes people say where they're like, the art means whatever you see it think it means.
Right.
And I'm always like pushing against that. Like, no, it means what I. Like if someone says that about my art, I'm like, no, it means what I meant it to mean. It can mean whatever you want it to mean, but to me, it's one meaning or something like that. It's very defined.
I mean, I guess it comes down to the importance of the idea that you're trying to convey, and how important it is to you that people get the meaning that you are intending.
Exactly.
But not only that, but I also, whenever someone comes to me at an art show and I have a painting where I'm trying to say something, if they come at me with a developed idea, like I would, like this one I'm saying to you, I appreciate that so much, because I'm like, actually, it doesn't mean that, but that's super awesome. I'll like really take more time out to explain what I meant, just because it's obvious they took their time to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, honestly, just hearing you make those interpretations, I just feel a little bit giddy. I mean, even though it's the opposite of what I had intended it to be in both cases, your perspective is really good, and I think it makes a lot of sense, you know.
Right.
And it amazes me, and it's just a reminder that you shouldn't make assumptions about anything in this life.
They made an ass out of me.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, let me just break down the intended meaning on both of these. So the one with the sun and the umbrellas that are raining from the umbrellas. You know, initially when I started this piece, I had this idea. Well, Modern Eden was doing their Summer of Love show, and I was too late on responding to the invitation. But I had actually really wanted to do a Summer of Love painting. I just sort of was caught up at that moment. So I had started out with this, intending this to be my Summer of Love painting. And the owl has its eyelids at half mast, and I think that's where you're getting this kind of a self-deprecating look.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's looking at the viewer like, oh fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually had initially intended those eyes to look stony for the Summer of Love, sort of like, you know, stoner concept that I was going to go with. But I certainly, and I've since, you know, I've thought the same thing before. Like, gosh, he kind of almost looks like he's over it. But so it just goes to show you that even myself making these pieces, it's like working a puzzle. I start off with one idea, I pivot to something else. Maybe something happens in my life that I want to address, or I read something that I want to engage in the work. Right. And then I try and sort of repurpose something that was initially intended for one thing to another end. And that's all part of the learning process. I mean, I think that, when I started doing this series, I wanted to leave a lot of room to pivot along the way and to make improvisations and to make decisions that weren't necessarily adherent to the original plan, because I sort of perceived as that was where I wanted to grow as an artist, and not to be so particular about the process and just allow it to evolve and speak back to me. So, this painting is really about, the title of the painting is No Expectations. The tattoos on the owl's right arm, our left, is has some psilocybin mushrooms. It has some daisies, and it has a string of mala beads, meditational beads. And the tattoo on the left arm, our right, is as a melting compass, which with some roses that are really just kind of thrown in as filler. But the idea was I was really interested with the intersection of the psychedelic experience and sort of the meditative experience of nirvana. I enjoy meditating, and I also enjoy taking mushrooms. I've had some experiences when I was tripping where it seemed to me like the descriptions that I would hear of what some sort of temporary state of enlightenment might be like, where you're sort of just perceiving the world as it comes to you without any expectation of what's coming next. You're sort of in this state where you're riding the moment to some extent, and how euphoric and ecstatic it feels to be in those places. And of course, that's a temporary feeling that's brought on by a psychedelic substance, but you can theoretically achieve the same thing through a lifetime of meditation. And so that was just something that really fascinated me. Now, the thing I really actually love about this painting is that when I made it, it was summertime, and I actually hadn't taken shrooms in a little while, and the day after I finished it, I met up with Josh and Monty at the river, and Monty and I ate a bunch of shrooms, and we went tubing down the river. And I felt like the painting manifested the experience, you know what I mean? Like this painting with the sun about, tripping and like expect anything. And then I went and had this trippy little journey down the river, on a hot sunny day. So it was cool. This painting, actually, I love it for that reason.
That's awesome.
But I do think it's not without its flaw for sure. And then the painting on our right that we're looking at, the one with the Hulk hands, also reflects just sort of a philosophical interest of mine, which is I really got into Stoic philosophy about a year ago, and maybe a little longer than that, actually. And I read a lot of Stoic philosophy. I try and read from my favorite philosopher, Seneca, at least every day. Or I have an audiobook, so I might just listen to like 5 minutes of the audiobook. I just feel like Seneca drops knowledge like nobody. And Stoicism is about a lot of things. I mean, I would say at its core, it's a philosophical program to enjoy life more. And it's about not letting your emotions carry you away. It's not saying you can't have emotions, but if you have an emotion, you don't layer a narrative on top of it to try and justify the way you feel. You don't self-indulge. You just, you allow it to happen, and then you self-regulate and you get back to where you're at.
That's awesome.
And so that's really what this painting is about. It's about the softening of the aggressive tendencies. So you have these sort of super aggressive tattoos. You got a dragon on one side and sort of a monster looking octopus kraken on the other side. And those really reflect the impulses of anger that we all feel sometimes. And, I was playing on the Hulk vibe because, Hulk's tagline is like, don't make me angry. Like, you would not like me when I'm angry.
Right.
But it's a soften. It's not the real Hulk hands, you know. It's been softened. It's still there. The impulse is still there. The Hulk hands are still there, but they're not the real Hulk hands. They're like a softer version of the Hulk hands. And you got some butterflies on top. Now the flower, the dahlia, is just sometimes I throw things in that I know nobody's going to know what they mean. It's just a personal experience or some kind of personal reference point that I connect to. And I painted a mural. I'd had a mural project years ago at a restaurant, which has since gone out of business on Bush and Kearney, called Claudine. And it was a dope restaurant, and it was a dope mural. But there was I had some deep frustrations with the project, and you know, I blew my lid on a friend who I was just venting to him, but you know, I really was. I shouldn't have unloaded on him like that. You know what I mean? And it's just something that I regretted. I felt like perhaps it was to some degree a little damaging to the friendship, and that you know, it's just a reference point that I look back on a time when I think, you know, I allowed myself to get carried away by my anger, and it did not make my life better. You know, so it's just a nod to that experience, and it's a cool looking flower, and so you know,
agreed.
It is a cool looking flower.
So that's how that ended up in there. But.
Awesome. And so the reason why you anthropomorphize all these animals is just so that they can tell your story. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's you human, because that's always the question I was wondering too, was well, pretty much whenever anyone uses an animal in a painting, I always assume it's something to kind of explain humans.
Yeah.
In a way to humans without using. You know, it's kind of like it appeals to the animal lovers and all of this.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, right. People do identify strongly with animals, and you find that when you paint them, because you know, you'll have like someone who's an owl person who will just be like so about it, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it is to tell my story to some degree, or just my perspective of the world and what's going on in it, you know. You know, I've used this vehicle to comment on gentrification a couple times. I've used it to comment on the passing of some friends. I've used it to comment on religion or philosophy, is, you know, that are important to me, not in like any kind of like Judeo-Christian sense or anything like that. But
right.
So yeah, you know, I used to paint people. I really liked painting portraits, but I could never get to a point where the personality of the person I was painting was sort of second to the overall aesthetic of the work. Like, I feel like when I look at both your guys' work, I'm not thinking about who the model is per se. I'm thinking about the context that the model's in. I'm thinking about the environment and the mood, and the way that you've sort of incorporated her into the composition.
Right.
And then, you know, and like for Josh's case, maybe you got some arrows going through the feet, or, you know, there's some sort of like little something that you're like, what is this about, you know? And then you sort of come around to like, oh, look, there's the model. Who is she, you know? But that's like the last thing you really think of when you look at Wonder Paints. And
yeah, I tell MJ, because I remember when we first started doing MJ, or when I first started doing MJ, she was like, oh, could you paint me or something like that? And I was like, I really don't want to, because I don't like painting people I know.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much for that one reason, is because I know you, I can't, that influences my artwork.
Yeah.
It's almost like
that's true.
I don't want that influence at all. I want the artwork to just be kind of its own thing. And it's kind of selfish, I guess, because most of my artwork, either I'm trying to say something about myself or just tell a story. But yeah. And not only that, but then I get obsessed with capturing them, you know, where if it's flawed and
it detracts from the message when
or if I don't capture their likeness enough, I get kind of obsessed with that, where it's kind of taking me away from the whole reason I'm painting in the first place.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, doing a likeness will take you down the rabbit hole. You know, I don't know if you've ever had a painting where you're just like, you cannot figure out what it is, but you could tell the likeness isn't on.
All the time.
Micro adjusting every little thing endlessly. Like, when am I going to fucking get there on this?
Yeah. I always wonder if people notice whenever, because sometimes I'll post on social media like a progress shot, and then I give up somewhere along the way.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, I'm not going to post the rest of that.
You mean like paintings you just abandoned?
Yeah, pretty much. And people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this finished."
Yeah,
sorry, never will.
Waiting.
Yeah, painted over it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ever do that. I mean, do that, but don't let people know you do that because they get furious about that too. Yeah, I know. I did that once where I was like showing myself just like.
Oh yeah. And that's a good Instagram video right there, right?
People they don't get happy about it. They're like, "Oh, you should have told me I would have bought it." I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, you could have bought it. Like, no one stopped you.
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't you say that when I was working on it?
Yeah. I've done it with even
you can
finished.
still buy it. It's just gonna be underneath everything I painted over it.
Yeah. And the painting that you actually get is 2 paintings in one.
Yeah, there you go.
You get double.
That's a good deal.
2 for 1. But yeah. So that's one.
I did want to say that they are like really well painted. Like the technical execution is really well done. Just wanted to let you know that I appreciate that part of it.
Thanks. I mean, I like hearing that from someone who is, has a background in classical training and who can paint as well as you. I mean, that's, the way I approach the painting, I should say also there's some collage elements in there too, but only in the background, not in the actual figures that are represented. But,
right. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. What part of it is collage then, like in this one?
So, you can see some sort of vertical bars around the arms there on either side.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What those are is this is kind of, I don't know if I should admit this, but when my second child was born and, raising your kids is an amazing thing. It's a really special experience. But, when you're into like year 6 or year 7 of just like spending every day with a little baby or infant or whatever, it could get a little bit boring. Yeah, as amazing as it is.
The curtain.
Yeah, exactly.
Soften that blow.
Exactly. Well, so the anecdote I had to that.
Children, plug your ears. For the next 5 minutes.
The anecdote I had.
Infant listeners.
Yeah,
not offend them all.
So I just started this little like daytime graffiti campaign with stickers, just to sort of like occupy myself, So I did this little hand drawn edition of little stickers that were dope. I cut out the contour and everything. I didn't use a printer. I did it all by hand. I did 1,000 stickers, and they were easy to draw because it's just super repetitive. You got your little symbol. You just draw it out again and again and again. And so, if I had like 10 minutes to kill, because the baby was, I don't know, crawling around in the pen or whatever.
Being boring.
Yeah. It's like, I just jump down, knock out some stickers. And then, every day I'd go when I have to take my son for a walk, I throw him in the stroller. I just bring this little stack of 10 or 15 stickers with me. And I just, real slyly, put them up.
Right. The perfect disguise.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, I got so good at it, I mean, on one hand, I wouldn't want to do anything that would potentially endanger the safety of my child.
Right.
I realize I'm participating in illegal activity with my kid, yada, yada. But, Daddy didn't want to lose his mind. So, I had to do something to keep me going. And, but I got so good at putting them up, that, I literally would put them up sometimes when people were with me and they wouldn't see me do it. Cause, it's like it's like a little magic trick or something. Sleight of hand.
Well, I remember I used to, when I was doing a lot of sticker stuff in the graffiti game, I used to, you could do fun things where you just like, you see a cop and you're like, I could do this right in front of him because it's just that easy. It's like, cop there.
I could catch some throw ups on his windshield.
I don't know about all that.
Leave that to Pimmons.
There are some funny, like images of like people patting cops on the back with stickers in their hands.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Cops walking away. You're like, oh.
My buddy got busted one night. This was back in the 90s before they had, real professional tools. Like, I don't know if you know what a mop is, kind of like a squeezy graffiti implement.
Okay. To help you guys think, it's kind of like, the shoe polish things.
Exactly.
Very similar to that.
And that's what I'm getting at. That's what we used to use back in the day. You'd go buy the shoe polish thing, you pop it open, you'd empty it out, and you'd fill it with some ink.
Right.
And that would be your little, homemade utensil. And yeah, my buddy, he had it full of yellow paint. Actually, he didn't have ink in it. Or maybe it was yellow ink, whatever. He was catching a tag with it and he got busted. And the cop that busted him got the ink all over his pants, and he was all pissed. And his partner goes, "Oh, don't worry, Larry. It's just shoe polish." And and my friend was just laughing. He's like, "You dumb motherfucker." Whoever heard of yellow fucking shoe polish? And are you gonna have a surprise later? So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, but so I had all these stickers at the house. I would, the stickers I would draw on and cut up, and so I had the idea to repurpose them to try and create some sort of like textile effect with them. So I stain them with some really watered down paint. It gives it kind of like a rough, growly texture, which you can adjust if you want little or a lot. You just use more water and rough them up a bit. And same with the intensity of the saturation or the tone. And then I just slice them up like almost. I mean, the inspiration really is like hardwood floor, which you see everywhere living in San Francisco. And so I just sliced them up into little panels and reassembled them, to make a little mosaic. And then I just use that as basically filler in the background because, you got a space to fill. You got the main thing you want people to look at. You got some, auxiliary things that you're trying to capture their attention. Then you got some space in the back that it's like, well, what am I going to do with this? So, it was just sort of a problem solving approach to filling space.
So is that like kind of an homage to like graffiti, or is?
Oh, I think in the sense that it was born out of my life and my love affair with graffiti that lasted all the way. And I mean, I still do love it, but in terms of participating in it, I mean, I maybe pay like a piece a year now. But I'm 43 years old and, it's still there in my life. And I mean, if you would have told the, 16-year-old me that was bombing the freeways of LA that when I was 43, I would still be engaged in this, it would have blown my mind. I mean, I would have thought I would have like the biggest loser on planet Earth. Here I am.
I always thought the opposite. I remember my brother, because he's the one that kind of I looked up to because he did graffiti. And I remember at one point he was like, "Oh yeah, if you're doing graffiti and you're older than 18, you're lame."
Yeah.
I was like,
"Get a life."
I was like, "But I want to do it forever."
Yeah, that's cool. See, that means you're the true practitioner.
But I've definitely fallen off that wagon. Yeah. I mean, I don't do it nearly like at all, like very rare now. Yeah, and I'm nowhere near 43. I'm like 22, I think.
Yeah,
so young.
Yeah,
but yeah.
You're only 4 years lame.
Yeah, exactly. There's time for you still.
I'm just kidding. I'm not 23. I'm 15. Forever. But yeah, that's awesome. And the labels you use, they kind of give it this. They also give it like a little bit of text every once in a while, and a little because you use those like old like United Postal Service, like 228s or whatever they're called. Yeah. Those like, I remember when I found out that you could start a business account on the United Postal Service, and they'll send you stacks of those stickers.
Mm-hmm. They sure will.
For anyone listening that does graffiti. Look into that if you want.
They make you sign a disclaimer saying you're going to jail if you use them for anything but random packages. So just for the record, I only use them to ship packages.
Yeah, but if you're breaking the law, it's I highly doubt they like prosecuted it for that one.
Yeah, I seriously don't think the Postal Service has the money to prosecute anybody at this point.
So they'll just send you like 1,000 stickers at a time. Yeah. You're like, let's take a couple hours a day to knock out some of these stickers.
Yeah.
You chop them in half. At least that's what I used to do. I used to chop them in half so they're smaller because you can put them in your pocket and.
Yeah, they keep changing them. The new ones are real big. They went big.
Oh, really? I haven't touched them in a long time.
Yeah. So it's cool. I mean, I like the fact also that the Postal Service, snail mail, whatever. It's like. It's an endangered species. Yeah. It's gone. And I love that about putting it in my work. It's like, I feel like it's a little time capsule that's reflective of when the piece was created.
Right. That's a good move.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome.
So anyways.
So now that you've tricked your wife into supporting you for the rest of your life.
Thanks, baby.
What does she do?
She's a psychologist. She actually teaches. She's a professor at a university.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I already knew that, so I don't know why I said nice.
You're being nice.
But that's awesome. I mean, so when you met your wife, you were a graffiti artist at the time.
I was.
And you were living in a home with a bank robber / heroin addict.
Yeah, she really loved me. Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
You must have been a charmer at the time.
I tell you, it worked out perfect. I mean, I think our personalities just clicked, and it was one of those situations where, I think we both knew within like a month, even though we didn't say that to each other, but there was a mutual understanding, like, oh yeah, this is for life, It was just one of those situations. And I mean, she was super down. She's a very down to earth person. She has very little pretension. She, she has a fascinating upbringing. She was born in the Bronx in the 70s, and things were getting rough, as most people know the Bronx was like in that era. And so her mom shipped her off to her aunt's house in Mexico on like basically told her like, hey, you're going to go to your aunt's house for the summer in Mexico. And then it was like, well, maybe you guys should just enroll in school, we'll see what happens. And then like, 4 years passed, and she spent 4 years growing up in Mexico City.
That's awesome.
And then she moved back to LA. And she and I actually went to high school just miles away from each other, although we never met growing up. It wasn't until 98 when I moved to San Francisco from Humboldt that we met. So, but yeah, I think her upbringing really really informs her personality, which is to say that she goes with the flow. She has very little neediness or expectation. I mean, not to say that she doesn't have needs and expectations, but I mean, I think that she can just really roll with it more than most people can. So yeah, when she met me, her sister, I met her through her sister who I worked with at the time, and I had told her sister that I was a mural painter. Which ended up being a little prophetic, but So she met me.
You should have said, "I am a billionaire."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. She stuck with me even when she found out I was a scummy graffiti writer, not a famous muralist.
Yeah, you're like, you just do these murals, but they paint over them in a couple of days.
Yeah, you weren't lying. Exactly. And then I invited her back to my house. She had to hurdle a giant dog shit in the living room to get to my room. And
I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Wolf shit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I paint wolves.
That's what you can't control in the world is the shit.
Exactly. That's it, man. That's actually perfect. Man, I remember the ex-con used to just like be like banging on his door like, you motherfucker, clean up this shit, and oh man, it was tense vibes. Believe me, it was like, I'm just hiding in my closet here.
Yeah, that seems intense for sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
Crazy. Yeah. Good times. It feels so nice to be older and comfortable in life, and
Yeah. So now we're going to start talking a little bit about our current events. We've been trying to work in like what's going on in the art world, at least a little bit, into our podcast. And recently Sergio sent me this article I did not read, so I don't know anything about it. So I know
at this point, I'm not expecting to read anything I sent you anymore.
You get some very non-informed commentary.
It's like my subtle way of saying stop sending me things to read. I'm like, cool, thanks, Sergio. So I'll let Sergio take it from here.
So I came across on James Gurney's blog, super popular art blog. He comes across all sorts of different things, and
he'll come up with it.
Of course, no one's surprised by that. What happened was there's a museum in England. I believe it's called the Manchester Gallery of Art, and as part of an exhibition for, I believe her name, Sonia something or other. She's a contemporary artist. But as part of the exhibit, they decided to go into they have like a Victorian room of their gallery or their museum, and they have a bunch of different paintings of the era. And so what they did as part of the exhibition is to remove, there's a Waterhouse painting called Hylas and the Nymphs. And we're all looking at it right now. I think we'd all agree it's a pretty damn good painting.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, very awesome.
Yeah, it's really well painted, and it depicts a scene from Jason and the Argonauts. I did a little bit of research. A scene from Jason and the Argonauts. Hylas is like Jason's right-hand man, basically. And it's depicting a scene where Hylas gets seduced by the nymphs, and they kind of take him into the water, and he's basically kind of seduced and kind of willingly jumps into the water with them, and it's kind of never to be seen again.
Is this like some like Greek mythology?
Yeah, it's part of a Greek myth, like Homer's Odyssey.
Okay.
And so it's basically an allegory, sort of being like, don't fall victim to your temptations, sort of thing.
Addiction.
Yeah. So what happened is I'm at the blog of their website, and this is basically what they say about it. So how can we talk about the collection in ways that are relevant in the 21st century? So what they did, they took down the painting, and in its place, they put this paper that basically says what she wrote on her blog here. It says, this gallery presents the female body as either a passive decorative form or a femme fatale. Let's challenge this Victorian fantasy. The gallery exists in a world full of intertwined issues of gender, race, sexuality, and class which affect us all. How could these artworks speak in a more contemporary, relevant way? What other stories can these artworks and their characters tell? What other themes would be interesting to explore in the gallery? And so, so it's Sonia Boyce. And I looked up Sonia Boyce's work, and it's basically kind of like folk art, sort of like very African and Caribbean influenced artwork.
Okay.
So what happened was, because of people like James Gurney sharing the article about what happened, there was a big sort of backlash about it. People were like, this is censoring, and this isn't what was intended to happen with this artwork.
Sonia is like what is she to the what is it, a museum or a gallery? Or
it's sort of a museum. Sonia is the artist that's exhibiting in the museum, and the director that was kind of responsible for this happening was this woman named Claire Galloway. And so what she was saying is basically that because how the women are depicted in the painting, it's sort of this like old-fashioned Victorian ideal, like this sort of nymphs are just these naked females on display for, I guess, people to sort of ogle at. But for me, it's sort of like, well, there's a context to the nudity in these paintings. Like, they're meant to be these seductive parts of, like, it makes sense for the story that these people or that the women in the painting are depicted in the way they are.
I think one of the difficult things with this is I don't think the people that ended up doing this to the painting had any like negative intentions. I think their just actions were like incorrect, you know.
You mean the people that took it down,
that removed the painting? I don't think they necessarily are like bad people. They just have like, gosh, it's just one of those things where everyone is, you know, they're trying to do the right thing and figure out what's right, and I think there's this huge misstep with a lot of people nowadays. And I think that's kind of what they did here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, I understand the thing about the femme fatale and how this is basically, representing women's seductive powers in, a very sort of Black Widow sort of a way, But I think that it's seen, well, as obviously all Victorian art is, but particularly in what's portrayed here, it's seen through a male's eyes. I mean, this is presenting a scene that's seductive to a male's. It's hard to even speak about it. You gotta be careful with the words you say. But I mean,
one thing I will say too is she said it's like it doesn't speak about the contemporary.
It seemed like there was a lot of it seemed more like it wasn't so much about the art itself. It was more about the agenda that they were trying to
it doesn't represent the contemporary movement of today or whatever, which isn't necessarily. Yeah, it's not necessarily the reason why this painting is being shown. I mean, it's like we talked a little bit the other day when we went to the Legion of Honors, and I mentioned that painting that has like I think a slave in it, and it's not like when I see that painting and I'm like, wow, that's an amazing painting, that then means that I am embracing slavery. It just speaks of a time. It's like, oh, that's like really the slave actually in it is like one of the great parts, because it just shows like this like weird, beautiful painting that has this dark element to it that at the time probably wasn't perceived as dark. But but that's also like a time capsule that you get to see.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they didn't have cameras back then, so.
Well, I think in this case, beyond a historical relic, I mean, it's nice that it sparks the conversation that we're having.
Right.
And I think that the gallery that it's in can use it as an opportunity to facilitate a discussion.
Well, I think that was their.
Well, that was their intent, but I just feel like they went about it wrong, because if you really wanted to talk about the painting in that way, why remove it from being able to talk about it? It's almost like they wanted to tell you how you should feel about it by putting this sort of, instead of letting you come to the conclusion about it by looking at it, they put this paper there in place of it, and they sort of told you, or at least guided you in the way that they're trying to steer you in the way they want you to think about the painting.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think everyone has, unique personalized sexual tastes.
Yeah.
But, from a male point of view, what you're seeing is something that the vast majority of heterosexual men would find incredibly seductive. And so I think it panders to a stereotype, which is largely born out of reality, that, obviously men, find a group of naked women beautiful, and particularly with, soft, subtle femininity, not to say that, there isn't a ton of room for strength and power within that. But we're talking about sex, we're not talking about our social ideal. We're talking about what, gets us excited.
Yeah.
And that's what this painting is speaking to. It's temptation. And that's what it's about.
Yeah. And I think one other thing, as far as like them doing what they did, I think there is a misstep in that they could have started the dialogue without removing the painting, and you could have done it by maybe having a counter painting to the painting,
there you go.
Put it next to it and say, look, this is, what do you think about this? And like, I don't know, you don't have to go viral to start a discussion. And, I don't know. The only thing, I don't know, maybe they didn't mean to get the attention they got.
I don't think they did.
Really know.
Yeah. Like, because I was following the discussion about it as it was going on. Like, they got inundated with Twitter things just from all sorts of different places. But there were actually some people who were on the side of the gallery in a bit of a interesting way. Like, I remember reading this one person's comment back to it was about, I think she said something to the effect of, there are plenty of other paintings in the gallery that are from this area that they didn't take down. So if people really want to, I think her exact words or something like, if people want to look at nymph tits, there's plenty of other paintings in the gallery to look at. I mean, but I think that misses the point of like, if that's what they think this whole thing is about, that we can't look at our olden time boobies anymore. That's not really why people are there to look at the painting, I don't think.
I mean, how many boobs are in the history of painting? I mean, it's outrageous. It's endless,
Yeah, and the idea that people are going to galleries to look at boobs is ridiculous. We have the internet now.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if they want to do that, they'll do it. I mean...
one thing that other people brought up, and it made a lot of sense to me, is like, when people go to museums to look at these paintings, especially somebody like Waterhouse, who... probably not for you guys, but for me, it was a huge influence when I was in school. I looked at a lot of Waterhouse paintings. And,
when I was in school too.
So he was like kind of a art history sort of hero of mine. So, and I never really looked at him so much for the stories he was telling. I was more looking at the technique. And they actually had a exhibit with a few Waterhouses at the Legion of Honor, probably like 5 years or so ago. And I really liked seeing the paintings that they had displayed. And so to take away that opportunity for students and other people who just admire the work in like technical ways, like people have whatever reasons that they like to look at art, and some of it is for reasons that don't have anything to do with the concept executed in the painting. So to take that away is sort of like saying that, it's almost saying that there's one particular way that you need to interpret this painting, and we don't approve of it.
Right.
Yeah. It's a cool painting. I mean, can you imagine? It's a Victorian
painting too. I forget exactly how big it is, but it's a pretty decent size.
I mean, it must have been really really pornographic for its time. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if you look at it carefully, like there's parts where he kind of subtly obscured, like.
Well, there's no nipples.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's no nipples. There's only the girl who's actually right there in front of her. But some of them are like strategically placed behind lily pads in the painting and everything. Yeah. Like it's not like outwardly titulating.
Well, the sex is definitely directly.
I mean, it's there. Yeah. I mean, it's still like Victorian era, so they still had to. He couldn't go like totally all out, I guess. In terms of erotic potential.
Like for me, the really great parts to the painting are the two main figures, I think, in the painting, being the man and the woman. And there's these two expressions, especially the female expression, who's just it's so good. It's so like intense.
Yeah, she's just saying, "Come right here."
Yeah, and and that to me is could be captured just visually through their faces, and the nudity in it means nothing to that moment. You know, other than that, I mean, the lily pads are awesome, and just how he painted most of it is great. But to me, I think everything is kind of pointing your eye towards that moment between the two people. I think he's purposefully doing that. And if he wanted you to look at nudity, then he would probably try to pull your eyes not to those two glances of in that moment.
All the other figures are looking at that exchange of glances.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I think it's a beautiful piece. I mean, I think I think you hit the nail on the head. There's such an intense intimacy between the two main characters. And you can just feel him like she's just going to gently slip him down into that water and he's going to be lost forever,
Yeah, I think if they were trying to really drive home the point of what they were trying to say with like taking the painting out, I feel like they probably chose the wrong painting to do that. Like, if they found a painting that's like really sort of cheesecake pin-up-y sort of style, then I think they have more of a point, or it would serve their point a bit better to pick a painting that's a bit more overtly just like titillating. So like this is totally for guys to look at. But I mean, I looked at the feedback and there were a lot of female painters who I know who are like who look at Waterhouse a lot and they are influenced by his paintings, and they're like this doesn't make sense to me either. Like I don't see, when I look at a Waterhouse painting, I don't see this objectification that they're kind of alleging that's in Victorian art.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I try to think back or think about their intent, and that being a really big key to at least my opinion in the story. And I really don't think their intent was negative. I think they really wanted to open discussion, and technically, they
in a way it did, because everybody's talking about it now.
And from what you said, it sounds like the conversation it opened up to was a lot larger than they actually intended. Yeah, which is probably really good too.
I mean, it's good for them, but it gives their gallery attention for sure.
Well, I'm sure their gallery actually probably is getting more negative than positive for this. Yeah, but it does like open up the conversation to, like you and me, and we get to talk about it and really kind of break down ideas. Yeah. And we don't agree with this gallery, obviously, in their actions, and it probably lost some credibility with a lot of people. But at the same time, I don't think their intent was negative. So I try to not hold that against them so bad, because they didn't mean bad. It's it's the difference between murder and manslaughter, kind of. It's that whole thing of
they're challenging assumptions, and I think that's really what needs to happen with this conversation, because we've taken a lot for granted in terms of the sexism in our society and the way that women are portrayed, and and been totally apologetic about it for a long time. Right. And so I think it's good that we start to discuss this. I mean, obviously with this particular case, I think it's an overreach personally. Yeah. But just the fact that we're here talking about it, I think that the ends justify the means in that regard. So
yeah, I think so. I mean, it definitely did what they intended it to do. I just think there was a better way of doing it without, kind of making it seem like this painting did anything wrong.
So after at first it seemed like from what they said in other things, I don't know if it was there in the blog, but at first they were going to remove it for an indefinite amount of time, but the outcry of it, they basically after a week they put it back into the position that was in before. But I guess they added an extra bit of text to the plaque next to it about a little bit more about like basically what they want to say, like how can this be relevant in today's times.
Man, censorship always has the opposite effect. It always does. You try and censor something, you just get more eyes on it,
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty spot on. It's tough. I mean, the big issue I feel like I have with this is, I think that art is, at least in my opinion, is a person trying to explain something, right? And most of the time that explaining has to do with their experiences in their life. And I think there is this narrative that gets to be told through art that is infinite. And when you start censoring that and saying that this art is offensive, it almost is kind of what people who are like, who are super, it's like they have that like term, the PC police, and then they have like the PC. I feel like the PC police have like
their own police.
Yeah, they have like the PC police. Yeah, like and that group loves to point out when that group is censoring shit, and for the art world, I feel like people. I mean, I've mentioned it before, how they have this perception of the art world being this like weak and meek and whatever, and I feel like this portrays the art world as this weak and meek thing, and I feel like we're much stronger than that, and that to me is the offensive part of everything.
I mean, you are talking about the art community in the sort of stratosphere of a museum, and probably dealing with curators and people of a more advanced age, and I think that's the cycle that sort of repeats throughout the ages in art, is that we represent a younger movement, and we just are more reckless in our thinking, or maybe reckless isn't the word, but we have more abandon, and as people get up there in years, they tend to be more closed off in that regard, and I think that's reflected in maybe this decision. Well, actually, I don't know that. I don't know the age or the demographic of the people that made this decision, but I would say the art world in general at that level is probably a little less balls to the wall than it is it's for the people that are in the let's say
maybe
20 to 43 category.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, if there was balls on the wall,
maybe that was wrong.
That would make sense for certain people.
Would they remove it?
That's a great idea for an art show. Let's do that. Let's give that a shot. See what happens.
Yeah.
They would definitely remove it.
Oh, yeah. One thing about like when you think about a museum, the museum is kind of where you task people to, like the people who are in charge of it. You kind of given them the permission to be the stewards of these historical pieces of work. Right. And so you hope that the museum displays the artwork in the way, I don't know if it's possible, but in as neutral a way as possible, so that you can come up to your own conclusions about it.
Well, museums, I feel like museums just have a pretty bad reputation as far as like being.
Museums these days have all their own agendas too. Now they get to choose the way they present the work, which sometimes they do a great job of it. I mean, actually, probably a lot of times they do a pretty good job of it.
Right.
But I think that in this particular instance, they totally overreached in adding their own sort of 2018 agenda to 1898 painting. So
probably.
I mean,
so
But yeah, I think that a good way, just as an idea that I had as I was thinking about this, like what I think would be a cool way to bring like these Victorian paintings to a 2018 audience is like have an exhibition where you show female artists who have been influenced by Victorian paintings and kind of show them side by side and be like, hey, this is how the legacy of this art history that we all claim to appreciate, how it's manifesting itself in 2018 through the lineage.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a way you can just present artwork to open the dialogue without having to be so, censoring or censor or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of cool, awesome things about the paintings. They don't have to all be, because we kind of think of it today, the Victorian age as being this sort of oppressed, anti-female sort of lens to it. And so I think there's a lot of good that can be found in these historical paintings.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much shit about the gallery or museum, just because it all comes back to a lot more to say intent.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like, especially in the art world, there is this, people can be controversial, and when you try to figure out what the intent is behind it, I think that will dictate a lot of what how I feel about it. So if it's them trying to be controversial just to get attention or something like that, or whatever, that to me is kind of just lame and
cheap.
Yeah. I hope that's not what it was.
Yeah, me neither. But at the same time, I try to give them like the benefit of the doubt. And I feel like in this scenario, I really think that even if they were trying to get attention, I think it was for a just reason.
That's true.
I just, it just is what it is. I mean,
for all the wild, shit you see in paintings, it's like, man, this seems pretty tame.
Yeah. Not only that, but like men are also like, you look at those old paintings and the men are like warriors, and they have this like this persona they have to portray as well as being like the fucking strong men, which a lot of people kind of push as like, oh, the men are, but think about the weak ass guys in that scenario,
right.
Like that aren't the warrior or whatever. Where are they in the paintings?
Right.
Where's
in the background?
Yeah, at least in that era. But it's not like it just is. It was a time. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's history. Exactly.
Yeah, it's history.
And history can't really be revised. I mean, our understanding of it can be updated, certainly, and maybe that's the perspective that we should take on this, is that we don't just take this piece of art for granted.
Right.
But yeah, that's true. How many people knew that this painting was there or even heard of the museum before this whole thing happened?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very true. So I'll call that and for the current events, I mean,
I think we said what we had to say about it.
Yeah. We said we hate museums.
Yeah.
Paint more boobs. And throw in some balls. Put some balls on the walls.
Yeah.
I think it was...
I'm pro nipple in my painting. Just is the one criticism I have about this piece.
Yeah, guy and girl nipples.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I want to bring this back to Leon and just kind of figure out what do you got like as far as artwork. Are you heading a certain direction? Are you any new revelation that you're like, oh, I really want to?
I mean, to tell you the truth, I really am feeling the groove of this the series I'm doing. My plan is, like far as I can tell, although one thing I've realized about art plans is they always never turn out the way you expect them to. But I just foresee myself sort of continuing on exploring this composition until I get tired of it and then jump into something new. But I mean, my whole rhythm of painting now is one of sort of just sort of a slow and steady approach to it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to smash through any like major time barriers or anything like that. I'm trying to enjoy my family, be present with my kids, I'm trying to, read books that interest me, and I'm trying to do my meditations and just live a rounded life. So, the amount of time that I dedicate to painting is, it's moderate, maybe like 4 or 5 hours a day.
That's pretty good.
But, some days I don't motivate at night. Sometimes, nighttime rolls around and I want to watch TV or I want to go to sleep. But,
well, you got to know what's going on with the Kardashians.
Yeah, well, no, okay, I shouldn't say TV. I actually don't have cable, but, that Netflix and HBO Go is a fucking bitch, man. It'll get you in there.
Oh, yeah.
Just say you're watching Black Mirror. That's pretty safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys think I'm cool.
Yeah.
No, I really like High Maintenance is my show right now, man.
I don't even know what that is.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. That's on HBO Go. Check that out. It follows this weed delivery guy in New York City. That's the premise of it. But it's really not about him. It's really short excerpts of the people who he comes to deliver the weed to and sort of how their lives intersect in interesting ways. And it really presents the characters more as like real people, not glossed over, super sexed up, but, just more like average people. And it's really well written. That's a good show. They've only, they're in their second season. They got about 3 episodes down. So
HBO does good stuff.
For sure.
They really do.
For sure.
One of the few that are killing it.
No doubt. I know. I wish they didn't make so many great shows because, it's like I got to get some work done now and then. So
yeah.
But
that's true.
No, I'm pretty good.
I'm really good at painting while watching in quotation marks. I
can't do that. I can't watch stuff while painting.
I've kind of just grown up doing that. So to me, I can't even watch things when I'm not. It's like if I'm watching a TV show, I'm like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
Where
you have to be doing something.
Yeah, I have to be drawing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of listen to, it's like an audiobook almost, where every once in a while I get to look up and get like a visual image of what's going on. But for the most part, I'm just listening. So any kind of action movie or anything
I like the
that.
discipline of that. I'll just keep my eyes stuck on the TV if I do that.
Yeah.
And when I go to restaurants, my eye just keeps going to the TV if they have it on.
Oh,
I hate TVs in restaurants, man. I'm here to be with my family.
Yeah.
Just get that shit out of here.
I don't really watch sports, and for some reason when I'm in a restaurant, I'm like, ooh, all of a sudden sports.
Rams are up my
yeah, I'm like all interested in it.
Yeah.
God, turn it off, please.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way.
But yeah.
Some things I think are easier to watch while you're painting. Like I could watch old episodes of like The Office or something because I already know who the characters are. I know what their voices sound like.
Yeah.
But something that you need to attend to visually. Definitely not going to watch Narcos.
Yeah, no foreign films for me at all. It sucks. It's like I remember I learned. Ever watched that movie Old Boy?
I never saw it, but I kind of know that's
so good.
Insane, right?
But I heard about it like years and years ago, and then I think like 5 years ago I watched it for the first time. But I downloaded it legally.
Of course,
winky face.
Yeah,
and I had it like on my external hard drive for years, and then 5 years ago I watched it because it's like Korean, I think Korean film, and I just can't watch foreign films because that means I have to sit and actually watch it.
Right.
But yeah, another funny thing, when me and MJ first started dating, we wrote a list of movies that we loved, and then any movies that we didn't know of each other or we haven't watched of each
watch
other.
It,
okay.
Like, we watch it just so we can get each other's references and stuff like that.
That's
Knowing
cute.
MJ, oh my god, what sort of things did you have to say?
So I had to watch The King and I, which I mean, no diss to The King and I, but it's like, I think the movie's like 45 hours long.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it literally took me, I think, a whole week to watch it. Because I would start watching it and fall asleep because I think it was one of those things where we had to like sit and watch it. And I think we like promised each other like, oh yeah, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
So I sat and I watched it and I'd fall asleep and then I'd wake up. I'm like, God, stop it and start painting or something.
Who's in that?
Yeah, I don't know that one.
I don't know. I think it was made in like 1500s or something.
Yeah, it's an old movie, right?
Yeah. The only thing I remember about it, it's like etc. There's like the guy he like consistently says that, but it's about like this. It's probably like really dark if you like break it down in a certain way, but yeah, some king or something, and he like marries this white lady who I I think teaches his kids or something. I can't remember. I really was. I mean, it took me a week to watch.
So what was a good movie on the list?
Yeah.
I don't know. She had me watch a lot of garbage. Bend 'em Like Beckham.
Oh,
I had to
wow.
watch.
All right, just stop right there.
It was funny too because I had all these movies that I had to watch. Like I was like, oh yeah, you got to watch all the Guy Ritchie films.
Of your movies, then?
She hated them.
Like what?
First of all, I watched every movie on her list, and then I had her. I tried to have her watch like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch and like Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah.
And a couple other things. And I think she watched like 2 films and they were both like Guy Ritchie films and she thought all my films were British. And one thing about MJ is if it's a British film, it might as well be subtitled because she can't understand any of it. She's just like, are they speaking English? She didn't make it far on my list.
So if I ever want to just say something to you without her understanding, I just say it in like a British accent. She have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How good are you with Cockney slang?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
She didn't like Snatch? I know a lot of girls who like that movie.
No, she just has a hard time watching British films.
Okay.
Yeah, and she does not like Guy Ritchie films, I don't think.
Oh, that's too bad.
So whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I can't remember what else I made her watch.
Tarantino?
I think I tried to make her. Well, she's a big Tarantino fan.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if I made her watch Jackie Brown because I think that was one she didn't see yet.
Oh, that's such a good one too.
Yeah,
it's one people don't. I think they underrate that one.
Yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. There's like great lines in there. I always say like, "What happened to you, man? You used to be beautiful."
Yeah, that's the one I remember too.
I love that line.
Such a good line. The way he delivered it.
It's like he just killed his good friend.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But that word used to be beautiful.
Yeah, I know. And he's just talking about him being dark. It's so good. You ever watch that movie?
No, you know what? I take that back. I have watched that movie. One thing, when you smoke a lot of weed, you forget a lot of the movies you see.
I don't smoke weed, but that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. People are always like trying to quote movies that I've seen. I'm like, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
I'll make it halfway through a movie before realizing I've seen it because what happens is since usually I'll paint and watch a movie, I'll go through a good amount of movies and then someone will have a movie playing and they're like, "Oh, you ever seen this?" I'm like, "No, I've never seen this before." And then I get to like a really intense part where while I'm painting I would have looked up to watch. And I'm like, "Oh wait, yeah, I've seen this." And then I'll remember the entire movie after that and say, "Wow, I don't know how I take in these movies." But
back to what you were saying about TV shows. A few years ago, they put The Wire on Amazon Prime. And I hadn't seen that yet.
Oh, the best.
And so I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. And so about probably 4 or 5 episodes in, I was trying to do that thing where I was painting while watching it. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I was just like, okay, I'm going to surrender my attention to binge watching this thing for the next week or so. And it was not that productive.
I binge watched The Wire while painting.
Yeah.
And I watched a season a day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's about what I did.
Yeah. And I painted, so just think how productive The Wire made me.
Man.
I mean,
think how many people got capped in any given day, man.
It was crazy. It was I think there's 15 episodes or something. I don't remember how many episodes it was, and then they're an hour long. So it's 15 hours a day of just me painting and listening to The Wire. Yeah. So what do you listen to music or something when you paint?
Yeah, I do. I listen to a lot of audio, podcasts, obviously. I'm a super big podcast fiend. Yeah. Usually I'll split my time between maybe, if I work for, say, 4-hour shift, I'll do maybe 2 hours of podcasting and a couple hours.
Besides waiting to dry, which one?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. I mean, all the Gimlet programs are amazing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know.
Okay, I've listened to a few of them.
Okay, yeah, and maybe not all of them, but I really like this podcast called Criminal. I like Heavyweight. Of course, This American Life and Radio Lab. And,
Radio Lab's the best.
Yeah. So, I mean, those Radio Lab and This American Life are kind of the gold standard of podcasts.
When you listen to music, what's the?
I like, when I'm painting, I like to listen to. I hate to say this because I know that watching music on YouTube totally hoses the artists, and so shame on me. But I listen to this DJ on YouTube called DJ XS, and it's funk, disco, hip hop, old school mixes with some house elements, and it's just a lot of like really upbeat, you know, like you got to take a lot of little dance pauses. You'll be painting and then you like, you know, it's fun. Like you're dancing with your painting in the studio, you know.
Do you like the music to give you energy while you
do?
paint?
Yeah, okay. I do. And sometimes I'll get nostalgic and I'll listen to old music, you know, every, you know, once in a blue moon, I'll like listen to a bunch of sappy 90s songs or
do you ever go back and listen to Freestyle Fellowship?
I never stop. Yeah. I mean, I don't listen to it as much as I used to. I used to binge on it like crazy. But yeah, I mean, and you know, I don't listen to as much hip hop as I used to. But yeah, I mean, I definitely plug into, you know, an old AC Lone album now and then, or, you know, yeah.
Nice.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, it's always cool hearing what people listen to. So who was telling me recently they listen to like ambient music or something like that? And I was like, God, that's so weird.
Yeah. Have you ever heard Alan Watts' Chill Step?
No.
Oh, they're like these Zen Buddhist lectures to like this sort of like theatrical ambient music.
Okay.
Monty turned me onto that, man. That is, those will blow your mind, bro. Yeah.
That's
Do one
cool.
of those a day. Your third eye will be squeegeed to perfection.
I when I listen to music while painting, for the most part, every once like if I'm doing background stuff, I can listen to more upbeat stuff. But when I'm painting like the figures, I always have to listen to like really slower. Like,
yeah, emo. I know your music because I see your little videos. I'm like, damn, Josh is like really getting like serious. Is that right? Would you categorize it as emo?
I would not.
All right, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, people. I'm 43.
It's all right, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely like very intense and emotional music.
All right,
but I think like emo is like a actual style of music.
I
see. It kind of reminds me of like Blink 182 type stuff.
Oh, definitely not that. No.
Yeah, but yeah. That's always the question I get when I'm painting too, and like the music's playing in the background. Is like, what song is that? I'm like, gosh.
And what kind of paint do you use?
Google it. Yeah. What kind of paint you use?
That cracks me up, dude. I swear, like it's never ending.
Yeah.
I saw that your tagline was like, please don't ask me what paint I use. And every single time I look at one of your posts, somebody seems to ask it.
Yeah.
I never have had anyone ask me what kind of paint I use.
Really? Yeah. I'm actually better at that now. I feel like I'm more open to answering questions.
Yeah.
I used to be very like...
You're grumpy about it, huh?
Yeah. I had on my profile, like, please don't ask me what I'm using to paint. I mean, I can only answer that question so many times.
Do you have a little FAQ?
What's that?
Frequently asked questions.
Well,
you don't have a website, so you don't have an FAQ for your website yet.
I should. But I mean, it's bad because sometimes some people say, well, you should just write it in your thing, and every once in a while I'll do it and they'll still get the question.
Right.
And then sometimes someone will say like, oh, like what kind of oil paints do you use? And then like the question right in that is like, what kind of paint do you use? And like,
right, you have to respond to so many.
Look up one thing and it'll tell you.
Right, totally.
Because for me, if I see someone doing something in the art realm that I'm very curious about, I become like a detective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is
We're
that?
just talking about
part
this.
of it.
Nate, he does the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I remember once I saw Nate using some kind of pen, and it was a Japanese pen, and I just started Googling like Japanese pens.
Right. And meanwhile, like Nate's your homie, you could have just asked him.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the self-taught mentality, I think, is you just, and also a graffiti mentality of sometimes you'll have like a buddy who just knows everything about he's like, oh, you should use this ink or that thing. But he's just obviously put in the work.
Yeah. Plus also you don't want to sound like a fanboy who like,
I do.
All the other fans who ask him the same questions. Like, oh, now you put yourself in that category.
Yeah. Usually I'll just say like, can you sign my boobs?
Yeah.
But I don't want to sound like a fanboy, so I don't ask them what they use.
That's cool. I don't think that's fanboy.
No. While they're signing it, I just read what it says on the pen.
Right.
Like, oh, cool. Yeah. Sakura? Okay, cool.
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we're coming to an end of the podcast.
All right. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. Thanks, Leon, for doing this.
No, thank you guys. Like for reals, I really think you guys have a really nice chemistry, and you guys both fill in your respective spots as hosts, and it's dope. I can't wait to see. I hope that you guys have me back like on episode 106. All right.
Yeah, for sure. You'll for sure.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
definitely ask you back. But yeah, as far as like promoting yourself,
anything you want to.
Well, I have a show that just opened last night. It's a group show in New Jersey at Parlor Gallery.
Oh, I've shown there before.
Oh, yeah,
nice.
cool. Yeah, it's my first time. They just reached out to me. Really cool people there. So that just opened last night. Nice. That's really the only big news. Beyond that, just if you want to check me out on social media, you're not gonna find me on Facebook because it's a cesspool of misinformation. I would not fuck with it.
Shots fired.
And I'll fire all kinds of shots. If you guys want to have a Facebook talk, I'll at least. That said, I use Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. You can check me out. Go link to my site through the Waiting to Dry Instagram account.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, check out his work.
Do it.
Yeah,
let him know what you think.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
hit me up.
Ask him what kind of paint he uses.
Yeah.
What brushes.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about that.
Please,
somebody ask.
By the way, that kind of reminds me of this story I have where we were at an art show and you painted, it was like a luchador.
Oh, yeah, painting. I love that painting.
And you painted one of the characters from Nacho Libre. I don't remember his name.
Esqueleto.
There you go. And I remember I was like, oh, that painting's hilarious. And then I was talking to someone, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, who do you know?" Because he like found out I was one of the artists. He's like, "Oh, do you know who painted that painting?" I'm like, "Oh, I do." He was like, "It just speaks to me. It's so deep."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's crazy," because he got like such a different emotional reaction than I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's so funny," because and then I think I was like, "Oh, that's the artist." Like, talk to him, and you guys like,
"Oh yeah, he had a totally different interpretation."
I thought it was hilarious, so I wanted you to hear it.
Yeah,
and then you like absorbed it, and you were just being like a Zen monk Buddhist person who just like who like talked to him for like hours or something.
Yeah, like I said, I'm interested in what people see.
Yeah,
I liked what you said to me that night, which is that and I just drew it from the movie, which is a totally brilliant movie. If no one's seen it, Nacho Libre, go do yourself a favor and check it out.
Yeah, real drama.
Yeah. Well, it's just a silly comedy with a lot of silly, there's 2 fart jokes in the movie that'll give you an idea of how highbrow it is. But there's like this whole like existential undercurrent where like Nacho's a devout Catholic,
right,
and Esqueleto is like an atheist, but then they both sort of like resort to this like animist religion where they climb a cliff and like drink an eagle egg to get superpowers.
I gotta rewatch this movie.
I don't really remember.
And so, and they're arguing about religion, so there's like there's a real like existential philosophical undercurrent going on there. And so I tried to like just play off that in the painting, which is that I took a really silly painting and I just kind of honed in on the existential part, and I basically made sort of like this religious has that chiaroscuro vibe, with like the light coming down on a figure in a dark room, and he's kind of like, and it's Esqueleto, and he's like looking up to God or to whatever he's looking up to, which is ironic because he's an atheist.
Right.
So yeah, I just basically teased out that theme, and I love that painting.
You didn't say what you said. I said something to you.
Yeah, well, you did. You just said I made a real serious painting about a really funny movie, and
right.
You liked that counterpoint,
yeah.
And that's exactly what I was going for in the piece. And so it just made me feel so, rewarded that you basically dialed in on exactly what I was trying to get at.
Well, I get it every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah, you totally miss those other 2. Though. Jeez, Josh.
Way off.
I think that I like that interpretation of the movie that it's like Waiting to Dry. It's a philosophical undercurrent underneath the fart jokes.
Exactly. Lots of laughing. That's the other thing. I like listening to podcasts where the hosts are not like too serious, where there's a lot of like levity to it, because if you listen to a lot of podcasts,
especially
you can't
art podcasts.
Yeah,
they take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, for sure. And and also a lot of the this American life stuff. A lot of it is very heavy stuff.
Yeah.
If you listen to like 5 or 6 hours of that a day, you're just going to be depressed. So I definitely like to tune into podcasts that have that sort of lightheartedness to it. So which you guys definitely have.
Same here.
Yeah, I think one of our goals is to strive for 2 fart jokes. We missed the mark. Well, there goes one. All right, guys. So with that, we'll call it a wrap.
Yeah. All right.
So if you're still listening, Sergio would like to tell you something.
Fuck off.
Right,
Fart.
Yeah, there's the second one. All right.
Thanks, Leon.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you.
House.